G'day audiophiles and welcome to this bonus edition of the Sirens of Audio. I'm Dwayne. Recently Philip and I had the chance to speak with Peter Anghelides when we were talking to him about our Sarah Jane Smith feature, and we took the opportunity while we had him just to get a bit of a catch up on his series The Worlds of Blake 7. Currently we're in at the end of a release schedule of a trilogy of Blake 7 stories along a similar theme. The first one earlier this year was called Heroes and Villains. In November, we had a set called After the War. And this month, we have Allies and Enemies. So we got a quick update from Peter on these stories, what the future may hold as well. So before we get into the brief chat, I will throw in a trailer for After the War, and we'll be back, both Philip and I, with Peter Anghelides.
The war, the loss of Star One, everything's a complete shambles.
The Federation has failed. The human race has failed. I'm an outlaw, a traitor.
Why did you leave?
You assume I had a choice. What about you? What do you believe in?
Survival.
From Big Finish Productions, The Worlds of Blake 7, After the War.
You're a shape changer, an alien.
600 ships, all that was left of the Andromeda Collective, carrying gene banks and all the weapons we could salvage. The survival of our race depends on us finding compatible beings in this galaxy.
Human beings.
I'm human, you're human. We're on the same side, the only side that matters now.
Well, my dear, you've had a lucky escape. We almost dismissed your life capsule as space debris.
Jonah? I'm trapped, Callie! Help me! Callie! And you're a telepath.
Of course. How else could I anticipate your needs?
You're not Aranar. You're human, am I right? Humans don't have telepathy, believe me, I know.
You're the aliens.
She's a shapeshifter from the next door galaxy.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
She was in pain. I caused that pain, me and my friends on the Liberator. Maybe it doesn't deserve that name. Callie! How am I... Ow! Callie!
Peter, thanks for joining us again, and we're just going to have a quick catch-up on some of the Blake 7 material that's coming out. This month, in November, there's the new box set coming out After the War. What can you tell us to expect in terms of this box set?
Well, with After the War, I quite like the idea of doing something which was linked in with that the very start of the series that doesn't in, but perversely having Jenna in some of the stories. I'd written Warship years ago as a connection between what happens at the end of Star One to what happens by the beginning of Aftermath. And that was the first full cast audio that D7. We'd experimented with various bits and pieces with Liberator Chronicles, but this was the first one where we had all of the cast pretty much available and involved. So I was quite interested in working out what happens next, and exploring a little bit more about the aliens that we only see briefly in Star One. Motivation for doing this set, and then I thought, well, why don't we connect that with the different ways in which the aliens might have responded after the war, picking up on various hints that are happening in the TV series, and being as consistent as you can, given that the television continuity is a bit garbled on that point. I also quite like the idea of having something called After the War and featuring Travis, who, after all, definitively dies at the end of Star One.
That's what I was going to say. He's on the cover. What's he doing on the cover?
Can you tell us, or that's part of the...
No, that'd spoil it.
Well, there might be an easy reason why it's there.
You'll realise fairly promptly in the first episode what's going on. Yes, and it's not a clone.
No, we've got another clone of Travis running around. We don't need another one. And once again, it's a great
convention.
A really great and diverse cast. It's a large cast you've got across these 3 stories. What are you most proud about with this set?
I like the way they tie together as a set of stories, because that's something that came a little bit later on in the commissioning process. And in the past, we've been able to have a character like Hinton, for example, reappear across not just one box set, but a series of box sets, played by the same actor. In that case, Abigail Thor. And I quite like the idea of having a continuum, but not have the same actor. And of course, having shape-shifting aliens gives you the opportunity to do that in a slightly unusual way. So that should be a bit of fun for this set.
Excellent. Actually, we've just got a clue to a question we asked before, which I hadn't thought about. So that's great. So really looking forward to that. Then next month, you've got another box set coming out, Allies and Enemies. Anything you can tell us about this without spoiling too much?
Allies and Enemies is the story of Arlen. So I called it Allies and Enemies just because it's more inclusive of all of the other actors who appear. The temptation was to call it Arlen, like we called one of the previous sets Avalon. But I thought that might do more of a disservice to some of the other actors who appear in it. But it is the story of Arlen and how she got to where she was by the time we saw her in that final episode of the television series. So I'd always had that in mind as a possibility, because we're looking at how we can make best use of characters who had appeared in Chris Boucher scripts. And I saw an interview in, where is it? Oh, this charity annual here that Sasha Mitchell had done. And she was asked by the interviewer, 7 audios that Big Finish do, and would you appear in it? And she said words to the effect of, "Oh yeah, I bite their hand off." So I put my hand forward and offered her the chance to do this. And she was very pleased. So on that basis, I was then able to commission 3 scripts. You always want, if you can, to honour the original performance by having the original actor play the role. Had she been unavailable or not interested, I'd have given serious consideration to whether I would recast. Now, in some of our other episodes, that's been necessary because unfortunately, or played Dorian or Shrinker, they're just not around anymore. Whereas with Sasha being available, she was obviously the first port of call. And I had a lovely phone call with her about what we wanted to try and do. I commissioned the scripts, and she is just terrific. It's lovely to hear her explore more in these 3 stories.
Yep, I mean, that last story in that 4th season is very complex, lots happening, lots of characters, and yet she still makes a strong mark. So I'm fascinated to know what's going on. Now, in the mail this week arrived for me the first hardback book, The Rule of Death. Through the audiobooks are now being released in hardback.
Yeah, fantastic.
Which is just brilliant because I love books and I love these hardbacks. Why was this?
It smells terrific as well.
It does smell good. I should be holding mine. Mine's on another desk at the moment. Why was the decision taken to do some printing? And is that, obviously it must be financially viable.
Oh, well, yeah, and there was interest in it, and they all tie together as well. They are 3 novels which were written to tie into the Worlds of Blake 7 audios that I'd been script editing and producing. So I just like the idea of being able to make these available physically as well, and to make them a trilogy of 3 to go in with the set. It's not been as straightforward as just taking the original script and sticking it into a printed form either, because when you write you're not terribly worried about things like layout or even spelling or punctuation or grammar. And those it sounds like all really rather trivial things. You're thinking about what makes this audio book performable. So we needed to have a think about, how we're going to do the layout. They're not substantially different from the original audio books. Not least because I imagine some people will be playing the audio book while looking at the physical book. I always remember going to the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford, and seeing some of the real Shakespeare things at the back with their copy of the Arden Shakespeare out, following along as the actors on stage were performing, and presumably tutting when they came to a bit that had been cut out or swapped around or whatever. So I sort of had that in mind as we were commissioning these books, not to do something which was a change or a rewrite, but just to make sure it accommodated the needs of a physical form, and to make it look really good as well. So Mark Plasto has done a fantastic job on these lovely covers.
The covers are lovely. Can I say they just feel good too? The actual cover and the books feel. There's a certain lightness to them all, and I must admit, when it came in the mail, I was very excited. Who did the editing jobs of those novels? Did you edit them all?
I did, yes.
Nothing else I don't think has been announced yet that you can talk about.
That's why I need you to wait for a couple of months and have a chat with me then.
Okay. That's good. Well, we'll talk to you in a couple of months' time when you can talk some more about...
That sounds terribly demanding of me. Make sure you talk to me in a couple of months. Come across quite like that. But we can't we can't imply we're doing stuff until we've got permission to do and announce stuff. What I want to suggest is we haven't come to the end of the line on stuff. But on the other hand, only when we've got various and announcements gone out and approved and so on can we talk about it. And I know you're both such enthusiasts for the series that I'm very happy to talk to you about stuff when I can.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean,
that's a question. How many ideas do you have? Have we got years to go, or what?
What you start with is what interests me about the series. What are the opportunities, and what are the constraints? So, for example, if you've heard the trailer for Allies and Enemies, you will know it will saying things like, "Oh, so you're Roger Blake." Now you know that we don't have Gareth Thomas available, so. Part of the fun is to say, what can we do to play with that idea of Blake and that character of Blake in a new and interesting, which is a good story to tell, but also honours the memory of the original series and the actor. So that's the sort of. So what you do is you turn a constraint into an opportunity, and that, after all, is the whole basis for the Worlds of Blake 7 set. We know that unhappily we don't have all actors available. There are some where, for example, with Dana, we've recast because the actor originally in the role doesn't want to do it anymore. We've obviously recast Slave. We've obviously recast Ulrak and Zen, and that's partly because Alistair had done those roles previously for B7 Media. So and also it's been a while since Peter Tuddenham was around, but I don't envisage suddenly recasting Avon or Servalan, for example, because a bit too soon. And on the other hand, we know that Big Finish have elsewhere recast the first and the second and the third Doctor, and they've had other people playing the 11th and 12th, and I think also didn't Jacob the 10th. Anyway, the point being that there are ways in which you can do interesting things like that. But on the other hand, with Blake 7, it's slightly less straightforward. You want to honour the original series, so the constraints of not having all of the original cast around is something we've turned into an opportunity in Blake 7 and saying, well, I wonder what happened to Jenna after she left the Liberator. I wonder what happened to Callie before she first met Blake. So that kind of stuff.
Mm.
That was a long answer to a straightforward question, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you've done a really great job, and just a little bit of meat. Actually, I think Villa meets Jenna briefly in the.
You've got to sort of shy away too much from your sort of fanish instincts to have all sorts of absurd things happening.
Yeah, it's done quite naturally. It works well. I think it's lovely that you can technically they don't meet again. Well, as far as the TV knows, they don't meet again. But to actually have a story where they're both interacting without knowing it's interacting, and then they have a very brief meeting, it just sort of it was nice. It was just a nice nod to the past and giving the actors a good choice.
It's really quite the story. Arlen, the Federation officer, gunned down by one of Blake's people and officially listed as dead.
I very nearly died.
Blake's people shot you. Don't you want revenge?
From Big Finish Productions, the worlds of Blake 7, allies and enemies.
These people are my friends and comrades. They're fighting for their lives and for the freedom of everyone on this planet.
You're not even human, and yet they trust you.
I proved that I can be trusted.
May I know what my mission is, Major?
To infiltrate the rebels, of course, and destroy all resistance to the Federation presence on Saurian Major.
You think I'm a soldier?
I know you're a soldier. You're a Federation officer. We always look out for our own.
You're looking for somebody. Old scores to settle? I know from experience not to believe anyone is dead unless I've seen the body.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
A ghost with an eye patch. I was informed you were dead.
Sorry to disappoint you.
You think I know where to find Blake?
You think he's still alive?
Well, I'm convinced of it. He's somewhere out there, in hiding.
What's Blake to you?
Whoever captures Blake will be untouchable.
After Star 1 was destroyed, the Liberator was badly damaged. We got into life support capsules. I found Blake's capsule later. Crashed. He was inside it.
You're Rog Blake. So you've some ingenious plan to turn the tables on them.
My, the notorious Rog Blake.
Look at me, the state of me, and look at you. What good has fighting done either one of us?
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
You don't know what's coming. You don't want to know. Trust me, when the shooting starts, you don't want to be anywhere near.